Putin's top diplomat sidelined. Sergey Lavrov falls out of Putin's favor. Meanwhile, Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban wins one-year US sanctions extension. What does Lavrov's weak position mean for Putin, and what could this mean for the war in Ukraine? After more than 2 decades as the face of Russian diplomacy, Foreign Minister Sergey Lavrov, one of Putin's closest and most visible allies, may be slipping from the Kremlin's inner circle. Lavrov's absence from a key meeting of Russia's Security Council last week, where Putin ordered preparations for a potential nuclear weapons test, is raising questions about whether the veteran diplomat has been sidelined. Russian media outlet Kommersant called his absence coordinated but did not explain. Adding to this, Lavrov has also been replaced by a lower-ranking official as the head of Russia's delegation to the upcoming G20 summit, a role he has held for years. Numerous diplomatic sources told Sky News that tensions between Lavrov and Putin have been simmering for weeks, reportedly following the cancellation of a planned Putin-Trump summit in Budapest. US officials familiar with the matter said the breakdown followed a combative phone call between Lavrov and Secretary of State Marco Rubio, in which Lavrov went off script and torpedoed efforts to restore communication between Moscow and Washington. Inside the Kremlin, analysts say the fallout wasn't just about diplomacy, it was about image. In Putin's systems, no one makes the boss look weak, said one of Western intelligence officials. Lavrov's behavior, the source suggested, may have been seen as undermining Putin's authority at a time when control and unity are permanent. A senior European diplomat offered a similar view, quote, "It's less about policy and more about optics. Putin can't afford a lieutenant who appears untouchable." At 75, Lavrov is one of the last remaining figures from Putin's original team. Known for his wit and combative press conference, he has been the Kremlin's chief defender at the global stage since early 2020s, a tireless advocate of Russia's invasion of Ukraine and fierce critic of Western sanctions. But even long-time insiders aren't immune to Putin's balancing act, quote, "Never let a player grow bigger than the club," one Moscow political analyst quipped, comparing Putin's leadership style to that of legendary soccer manager Alex Ferguson, quote, "For Putin, loyalty isn't just valued, it's enforced." Lavrov's fall from favor may have been accelerated by a series of high-profile missteps. At a recent summit between Putin and Trump in Alaska, Lavrov reportedly showed up in a sweatshirt emblazoned with an acronym for the Soviet Union, a gesture interpreted by some US officials as a non-subtle message about Russia's imperial ambitions. The Kremlin has denied that Lavrov has been pushed aside. Still, his absence from the Security Council and his exclusion from major diplomatic duties mark a notable shift in government, where public appearances and seating arrangements are closely watched for signs of internal power struggles. Western analysts say the move could show broader changes inside the Russian government as Putin considers consolidates power ahead of the next election cycle and the ongoing war in Ukraine. Quote, "If Lavrov's really out, it's not just about one man. It's about Kremlin recalibrating its message and maybe preparing for something bigger." Meanwhile, months of speculations about potential meeting between President Trump and Vladimir Putin appear to be fading, with officials in both Washington and Moscow now signaling that no talks are on the horizon. Despite repeated suggestions from Russian officials that preparations were underway, US and European sources say there are no concrete plans for Trump-Putin summit, and little indication one will take place in the nearest future. Speaking late last month, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov told reporters there is no understanding of when or even whether a summit might occur, adding that discussions remain in what he called a preliminary stage. Russia's deputy foreign minister Sergey Lavrov was more blunt. Quoted by the state-run news agency TASS, he said that conditions for such meeting have not been met. Those statements came after Reuters' report in which senior US official confirmed there are no plans for the meeting in the future, contradicting earlier suggestion from Moscow that a summit could take place. That means the meeting, once touted by Russian media as possible breakthrough, is effectively on hold. Over the summer, the Kremlin had been floating the idea of high-profile encounter in Budapest, hinting that Trump and Putin could meet before year's end to discuss Ukraine and US-Russia relations. According to Politico, Trump privately told Europeans he was open to in-person meeting, possibly followed by talks with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. But by October, those plans had unraveled. A scheduled preparatory meeting between US Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Foreign Affairs of Russia Sergey Lavrov was cancelled, reportedly after tense exchanges over Moscow's continued demands regarding Ukraine. European diplomats told The Guardian that since its breakdown, any broader summit has been postponed indefinitely. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump hosted Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban in the White House on November 7th, a meeting that delivered a major diplomatic and economic win for Budapest's propaganda machine, while signaling a recalibration of US policy toward Russian sanctions. In joint announcement, both leaders confirmed that US would grant Hungary one-year exemption from sanctions on Russian oil and gas imports, specifically via the Druzhba oil pipeline and the Turk Stream gas pipeline. Hungary's energy dependence on Russian oil is significant. As recently as 2024, roughly 86% of its oil and 74% of its natural gas came from Moscow. The exemption addresses Hungary's geographical and logistical challenges, including its lack of direct access to seaports. Trump describes the measure as helpful for an ally, while allowing the US to maintain sanctions pressure elsewhere in Europe. Orban called it a historical step and framed it as part of a broader effort to strengthen US-Hungary relations. Beyond sanctions, the meeting highlighted expanded energy and nuclear cooperation. Hungary agreed to purchase approximately 600,000 million in US liquid natural gas. Hungary will procure nuclear fuel from Westinghouse Electric Company, US-based supplier, and explore developing small modular reactor technology to diversify its energy portfolio. The moves are aimed at both bolstering Hungary's energy security and fostering deeper economic ties with the US. Orban also announced that he described as a financial shield from US intended to protect Hungary's economy, public finances, and currency from external shocks. Details of the arrangement remain vague, but Hungarian Prime Minister emphasized that it ensures Hungary would have no financing problems and shields the country from potential economic attacks. Both leaders used the meeting to send strong signals. Trump praised Orban as a great leader and framed the meeting as evidence of new US-Hungary partnership. Orban describes the encounter as the beginning of a golden era in relations, contrasting it with what he called previous US administration's unfair treatment. Analysts note that the meeting underscores Hungary's willingness to diverge from EU energy policy, particularly on Russian sanctions, and highlights Trump's flexibility in US sanctions. For Europe, the extension raises concerns about Western unity in Russia and the war in Ukraine as one of NATO's and EU's members diverges from collective sanction policy. European leaders have expressed caution over Hungary's approach, warning that extensions could undermine the bloc's collective leverage against Moscow. That's all for today. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and glory to Ukraine.